daily words of God. The actual words of the Holy Spirit are the dynamics of the work of the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit's continual enlightenment of man during this period is the trend of the work of the Holy Spirit. And what is the trend in the work of the Holy Spirit today? It is the leadership of the people into the actual work of God and into a normal spiritual life. There are several steps to entry into a normal spiritual life. 1. First, you must pour your heart into the words of God. You must not pursue God's words in the past, and must not study them, nor compare them with the words of today. Instead, you must completely pour your heart into the actual words of God. If there are people who still wish to read the words of God, spiritual books, or other accounts of preaching from the past, who do not follow the actual words of the Holy Spirit, then they are the most foolish of people. God detests such people. If you are willing to accept the light of the Holy Spirit today, then completely pour your heart into the actual utterances of God. This is the first thing you must achieve. 2. You must pray upon the foundation of the actual words spoken by God. Enter into the words of God and commune with God, and make your resolutions before God, establishing what standards you wish to pursue the accomplishment of. 3. You must pursue profound entry into the truth upon the foundation of the work of the Holy Spirit today. Do not hold on to outdated utterances and theories from the past. 4. You must seek to be touched by the Holy Spirit and enter into the words of God. 5. You must pursue entry into the path walked by the Holy Spirit today. And how do you seek being touched by the Holy Spirit? What's crucial is to live in God's actual words and to pray upon the foundation of God's requirements. Having prayed in this way, the Holy Spirit is sure to touch you. If you do not seek based upon the foundation of the actual words spoken by God, then this is fruitless. You should pray and say, "O God, I oppose you, and I owe you so much. I am so disobedient and never able to satisfy you. O God, I wish for you to save me. I wish to give service to you to the very end. I wish to die for you. You judge me and chastise me, and I have no complaints. I oppose you, and I deserve to die, so that all people may behold your righteous disposition in my death." When you pray from within your heart in this way, God will hear you and will guide you. If you do not pray upon the foundation of the actual words of the Holy Spirit, then there is no possibility of the Holy Spirit touching you. If you pray according to God's will, and according to that which God wishes to do today, you will say, "O God, I wish to accept your commissions and be faithful to your commissions, and I am willing to devote my entire life to your glory, so that all that I do can reach the standards of the people of God. May my heart be touched by you. I wish for your Spirit to ever enlighten me, to make all I do bring shame upon Satan, that I am ultimately gained by you. if you pray in this way, centered around the will of God, then the Holy Spirit will inevitably work in you. It matters not how many are the words of your prayers. What is key is whether or not you grasp the will of God. You may all have had the following experience. Sometimes, whilst praying in an assembly, the dynamics of the work of the Holy Spirit reach their peak, causing everyone's strength to rise up. Some people cry bitterly and weep tears while praying, overcome with remorse before God, and some people show their resolve and make vows. Such is the effect to be achieved by the work of the Holy Spirit. Today, it is crucial that all people completely pour their hearts into the words of God. Do not focus on the words that were spoken before. If you still hold on to what came before, then the Holy Spirit will not work within you. Do you see how important this is? Do you know the path walked by the Holy Spirit today? The several points above are what is to be accomplished by the Holy Spirit today and in the future. They are the path taken by the Holy Spirit and the entry that ought to be pursued by man. In your entry into life, at the very least, you must pour your heart into the words of God and be able to accept the judgment and chastisement of God's words. Your heart must yearn for God. You must pursue profound entry into the truth and the objectives required by God. When you are possessed of this strength, then it shows that you have been touched by God and your heart has begun to turn to God. The first step of entry into life is to completely pour your heart into the words of God, and the second step is to accept being touched by the Holy Spirit. What is the effect to be achieved by accepting being touched by the Holy Spirit? To be able to yearn to seek and explore a more profound truth, and to be capable of cooperating with God in positive manners. Today, you cooperate with God, which is to say, there is an objective to your pursuit, to your prayers, and to your communion of God's words, and you perform your duty in accordance with God's requirements. Only this is cooperating with God. If you only speak of letting God act, but do not take any action, neither praying nor seeking, then could this be called cooperation? If you have nothing of cooperation in you, and are bereft of training for entry that has an objective, then you are not cooperating. Some people say, everything depends on the predestination of God. It is all done by God Himself. If God did not do it, then how could man? God's work is normal and not the slightest bit supernatural. And it is only through your active seeking that the Holy Spirit works. For God does not force man. You must give God the opportunity to work. And if you do not pursue or enter, and if there is not the slightest yearning in your heart, then God has no chance of working. By what path can you seek being touched by God? Through prayer and coming closer to God. But most importantly, remember, it must be upon the foundation of the words spoken by God. When you are often touched by God, you are not enslaved by the flesh, husbands, wives, children, and money. They are all incapable of shackling you, and you wish only to pursue the truth and to live before God. At this time, you will be someone who lives in the realm of freedom.